Welcome to the Lean White Belt program. This is the first in a series of belt programs on lean process improvement techniques. Before we start, there are a couple of items you'll need to print out from our Moodle classroom: the A3 Lean Charter template, the 5S worksheet, and the 5 Whys worksheet. The White Belt program has 4 modules. We're going to be starting in a moment in Module 1. Welcome to Module 1. This will be an introduction to Lean, the 8 wastes, and the concept of value for the customer. We're using Lean to create more efficient and quality systems, especially with respect to government. The reasons for this may be apparent. We can save money in times of tight and shrinking budgets and increasing expectations. We create simplified processes that allow for greater accountability and transparency. First, I want to let you know that if you need more time for any of the activities, you can use the arrow keys to go back to a previous slide. So, Activity 1. List 3 processes used in your agency. Now consider this. If you could choose only one of those processes to improve, which would it be? What would be your top priority? Here are a couple of examples of common processes: issuing licenses, writing reports, approving timesheets, how you manage calls from the public. Think about the process you might most like to have improved and save this list. We are going to be returning to it later in the program. Lean has a multi-layered definition. It's not only a set of tools, it's an operating principle and a perspective. You'll see more about this as we go forward with the program. In an operational sense, Lean can best be described as an organizational management system. It is characterized by a collaborative relationship between labor and management, and the byproduct of that is improvement in quality and efficiency. Lean is about eliminating waste, not jobs. Employees are our most valuable resource. By using Lean, we have the opportunity to spend time on value-added activities and less time on wasteful ones. Lean tools can be used to reduce backlogs, improve the quality of work, to allocate staff to more mission-critical work, to develop and document standardized processes, and to improve employee morale. You're often hearing, how do we trim the fat from government? But as you all know, there's no such line item in the budget called fat. Fat is interspersed throughout the processes. When we use Lean, the fat is known as waste, and we go after that waste and remove it. In Lean, we use mapping to make the process visible, and then the waste becomes evident. You're going to learn more about the mapping technique in Module 2. A couple of quick notes before we go further into the topic. Lean is not an acronym. The way we use it in New Hampshire, it's low-tech, it's user-friendly, it builds morale, teamwork, responsibility, and it encourages innovation. Lean was used by Toyota to become one of the most successful companies in the world. The techniques used in the Toyota production system were documented by a team of MIT researchers who were studying why the Japanese auto industry was outcompeting the U.S. auto industry. In 1990, they published their findings in a book titled The Machine That Changed the World. Since that time, Lean has become widely used in manufacturing and has been adopted by other sectors, including healthcare, finance, and public service. In his book, Extreme Government Makeover, Ken Miller explains that the actual labor time accounts for less than 5% of the total time a process typically takes. A 9-month permitting process may have 2 weeks of actual labor. A hiring process of 3 to 4 months may involve just 3 days of work. Where does all the time go? Batching, bottlenecks, backlog, checking, and rechecking. Remember that process that you listed in Activity 1? We want to have you now identify who the customer of that process is. The customer is defined as the end user at the final step of the process. For example, if you chose a permitting process, the customer is the permit applicant who is waiting to receive his or her permit. Activity 3. Internal customers. Typically, you also have internal customers, your colleagues within your agency who depend upon receiving work from you in order to do their work. Think about the responsibilities you have in your own job and make a list of your internal customers. Who relies on you to do their work? Lean practitioners have identified 8 wastes. You can remember them by using the acronym downtime. Defects, overproduction, waiting, non- or underutilized talent, transportation, inventory, motion, and excess processing. Several of these wastes, such as defects and overproduction, are particularly problematic and costly for businesses in manufacturing. In the next couple of slides, we're going to talk about the most common types of waste in the service sector. For example, requiring redundant layers of approval, requiring signatures to be notarized, having multiple meetings to talk about the same issue. That's all excess processing. Waiting is typically 90% of process time. Handoffs increase wait time, so the more people involved in the process, the longer it will take to complete the product. For example, how many people typically review an application for out-of-state travel? How long does it typically take to gather those signatures? The most serious, costly, and demoralizing waste in the service sector is underutilized human capacity. People are hired for their skills, abilities, and expertise, but they have their time and talents wasted on bureaucratic red tape. They become disheartened and leave for more challenging opportunities. If they do stay on, their potential creativity remains untapped. Activity 4. Examples of wastes. Select 3 of the 8 wastes. Identify at least one example of each of these 3 wastes in your own workplace. We'll pause for a moment as you contemplate this question. Have you identified wastes in your own workplace? Remember, you can use the arrow keys to return to this slide if you need more time. Now it's time for the module quiz. Test your knowledge by answering the next 5 questions. You'll be clicking through the slides one by one as you identify the answers to the questions.
Question 1. Which of the following is a reason not to use lean in your workplace? A. There may be a shrinking workforce and increasing need for a more skilled workforce. B. Lean creates simplified processes. C. Lean creates waste and we want to increase the amount of waste in our workplace. D. Lean saves time. Or E. Government employees are required to be more transparent and accountable. Yes, that is correct. The answer is C. Lean creates waste and we want to increase the amount of waste in our workplace. Question 2. Fill in the blank. Lean is used to increase blank added activities and decrease waste. Value. Lean is used to increase value-added activities and decrease waste. Question 3, true or false? Lean has its roots with Toyota, and the principles learned from there were observed by MIT researchers who brought it back to the United States. The answer is true. Lean does have its roots with Toyota, and those MIT researchers brought it back to the United States. Question 4. Who is the end user of a process? The end user of a process is the customer. For example, in a permitting process, the customer is the permit applicant. When looking at a process in your workplace, it is important to optimize value from the customer's perspective. Question 5. Match the waste to an example of it. Now, wastes include defects, overproduction, waiting, non- or underutilized talent, transportation, inventory, motion, and excess processing. The examples include producing reports that no one reads or needs, distributing extra copies, looking for a file, entering data into multiple places, typos, cannot process until signed, having the CEO make copies, and storing reports from the 1980s. Typos are a type of waste. Overproduction can come in the form of producing reports that no one reads or needs. Waiting can take the form of being unable to process something until it is signed. Non- or underutilized talent can include having the CEO make copies. Transportation can include distributing extra copies. Inventory can include storing reports from the 1980s. Motion can include looking for a file. Finally, excess processing can take the form of entering data in multiple places. Congratulations! You have now completed White Belt Module 1. By this time, you should have completed the following activities: listing 3 processes used in your organization, identifying the end user customer of each process, considering the customer's point of view, identifying your internal customers, and identifying examples of 3 of the 8 wastes. Now you're ready to continue on to Module 2.